everyone, welcome back to my channel, Plant Lady on a Mission. My name is Arelis, and today's video is a request by my friend Melly, and the video is on how to transition your plants from soil to leca. If you don't know and this is your first time tuning in or watching my video, most of my plants are in leca, and leca is pretty much just a clay ball that's used as a substrate. It's also known as hydroponic. And I mix my leca. I don't just do straight leca. I mix it in with rocks, and there's two pots that I use. I use self-watering. You could use something like this, a self-watering pot, and there's the leca and rocks. So it's an amendment aside from soil. Okay, or you could use a pot like this and there's water on the bottom. So it all depends on your preference. Okay, so again, you see the leca and the rocks. I also put some of them have perlite. I've changed, as I continue, depending what I have available. I just mix in with the leca. And so now getting into the requests, right? How to transition your plant from soil to leca. And first, I want to say this has been my experience, right? I've been growing plants for, my oldest plant is 21 years old, 22 or 21 years old. And the reason I switched is because my collection has grown so much that I was getting gnats. And now something that people enjoy about leca or hydroponic substrate is the reduce in gnats. Now some people have said that they've experienced no bugs. However, that has not been my experience. I have seen a reduce in gnats, and I haven't had any gnats since I've transferred all my plants into hydroponic. So the first thing you want to do is remove all the soil from your plant that you want to transfer into leca, right? So not only remove the soil ball, right, and break up the root ball, but also rinse those roots. And I also want to say that when you transfer any plant from any substrate, from one substrate to another, there's always going to be a transition period. So in my experience, I've had the most success in transferring the substrate in the growing season. I wouldn't recommend, for my opinion, right? My experience, my opinion, to do it in the winter, the cold, winter, or the non-growing season for the plant, depending where you live, right? I live in Massachusetts, and our winters are really long, and so I know that my plants growing season, it may not be the same as someone that lives in a warm climate all year round. So with that said, going back to how to transition, right, is once you rinse all the soil off the roots, right, what I would recommend and what I've done is is to soak your plant for at least 24 hours. So like that, you could make sure that all the soil, as much soil as possible, is removed from the roots. Okay, and then you could go ahead and transfer your plant into the leca. So after you transfer your plant into the leca and you go to water your plant, there's a couple of things with watering that you would need to do that is not necessarily done when your plant is in soil. So being that the roots will be transitioning into water roots, right? Because that's what the hydroponic is. It's a water root. You will need to provide nutrients for your plant. You will need to measure your HP in your water and balance that depending on the type of plant that you have. And for me, I usually do 7.5 or 8 HP because I have a lot of Hoyas, and then my other ones have just kind of acclimated to that level of HP. You will need to fertilize also. Everyone's fertilization will be, dependent on their environment and how frequent their plant is growing, and their watering, I don't want to say schedule, or routine, I should say. But again, it all depends on the plant, and there's some things that you could really look forward how to water your plant, right? But that's a different topic. I'm just looking at this plant here. What else do I want to say? So I could also share the fertilizers that I use. I use CalMag, and I use liquid dirt. The HP, it's not a fertilizer per se, right? But it helps your plant absorb the nutrients. What else do I use? I use Super Thrive, which is also a root. The only fertilizer that is different, or for the genus that I use a little bit of something different, is for my Hoyas. They do get some orchid fertilizer, and with that, all the other fertilizers that I mentioned. And the other thing with Leca or hydroponic substrate is that you need to, it's recommended, I should say, it's recommended that you flush your plant. I'm not sure what the actual recommended flushing is. I know I do mine's about every 2 or 3 months depending on the plant. Now if I see something wrong with the plant, if I see, mealybugs, which is really the bug that I've had issues with, and I guess that's just because I have a lot of Hoyas, and that's the bug that is, they're prone to getting, is mealybugs. I will flush those out more often. But besides that, I haven't had any issues with flushing my plants out every 2 to 3 months. Again, aside from my Hoyas that may get mealybugs. But I think that is it. Again, to transition your plant from soil to any substrate, not just Leca, you want to remove all of the soil first. And I would recommend, from my experience, is to let the plant soak in water at least 24 hours before transferring it to another substrate. And if you have any questions, if there's anything that I missed, please comment down below. If you have any special requests for videos, please let me know down in the comments also. If you like this content, please consider subscribing and sharing. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.